You've been driving for a while and you feel like you've hit a plateau and you're just not improving anymore. You've upgraded your hardware, but you're still not able to be as fast as you would like. Well, guess what? I did that too, okay? I'm as guilty as you are. And that's exactly why Racine and myself created what we call the advanced way to learn. By using the techniques that we're about to show you, we were able to win national championships, and we're now coaching real-life drivers and sim racers all across the globe. So let me tell you why you absolutely need this to improve your racing skills. On this platform, you'll go through 5 learning steps. The first one is going to be to watch video lessons so you can take in all that theory. The second step will be to answer quizzes. We've created some questions to test your knowledge. Next, you'll have to partake in challenges. Here, you'll have to prove to yourself that you can apply what you've learned. You'll go on track and you'll try to beat the instructor's lap times or sector times. Following the challenge, you'll be able to send your onboard replay so instructors and other community members can help you improve. And lastly, you can get involved in the community to meet some new teammates and learn from others. This platform is a back and forth discussion between us, the instructor, and you, the students. If you're serious about becoming the best driver out there, this is the advanced way to learn.
With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Every time we come to Iowa Speedway, some commentator always decides to get creative and make a bunch of corn jokes, and today I say no more corn jokes. We're taking this totally seriously. The corn is over. Ah, shucks, I can't keep it up. I can't keep it up. It's a maze. It's a corn maze. And at the end of it, somebody will be crowned cream of the crop tonight. RaceSpotTV welcomes you to round 4 of the PRL Truck Fixed series in 2024 Season 4, live from the virtual Iowa Speedway. I can't help myself. My name is Joey Tevin. I'm obsessed with corn. Derek Watson is too. He's alongside me in the booth. And behind the scenes, hearing us in his ears of corn. On Sound and Pictures, it's Joshua Lee. Well, Derek, It is round 4 of the season. We come to Iowa as sort of a PRL Truck Series stalwart. Every time we come to a gap in the calendar in the real world, Iowa Speedway seems to find its way on the calendar, and it's always proven to be very, very exciting, especially when we bring as big of a field as this to the 7/8 of a mile.
Yeah, this is going to be one of our bigger fields, if not the biggest we've ever brought to Iowa. So it's going to be exciting to see how this works out. But then you look at the schedule ahead: Homestead, Martinsville, Phoenix, Kentucky, and Auto Club. You realize it's like the next 4 races of not a traditional mile and a half. It's going to be really interesting to see how these drivers play this out. Well, let's go and take a look at our points and start where we are. This will be for Joey, your pro standings for season 4. So Richard Regan Jr. has a 1-point lead over Bradley Holly. Then it's Jeff Ward back there. Then Jeff Evans and James Morgan. And then Sink, Kalen, Knight, Daniel, and Mike Knight. And Ted Lowendick round out the top 10. I need to just butter up this voice a little bit.
And you got a couple of past winners in that list as well. Jeff Evans has won here at Iowa before. Could he be a 4th horse in that race potentially? We'll see. The AM standings a little bit more separated than the pro standings because in this points format, you score points based on your finishing position, no matter which class you're in. So theoretically, the AM winner could finish 4th overall and get 4th place points. 2nd place in AM could finish 10th overall, and they're only getting 10th place points instead of 2nd place points. So that's why there is a little bit more of a separation. Andrew Sharp currently leading over Nick Hunter by about 13 points. Nicholas Schwartz is in contention as well. His championship is wide open. Not much we can say about this until we get deeper into the season. Andrew Sharp's off to a good start though. And in the team standings, that's all combined. There's no pro and am in teams. So Whataback with their Armada, they're in the lead with their Overdrive team over Regenboog Motorsports and over Bluegrass Motorsports. Those are also, coincidentally, the 3 teams that have won races this season with Bradley Holly, Richard Regan Jr., and Jeff Ward. That might just be the triumvirate fighting for the team's championship all season long, but you never know. Whataback Racing TNT searching for their first win of the season. DDI Motorsports searching for their first win in a little while. That would be a 5-way battle if they can make it happen. But it's not just these 2 season championships, Derek, that we're talking about. The playoffs are back in 2024. The Pro Division and the AM Division both have their own separate brackets. And right now, we're in the middle of the round of 12, and we really have to start thinking about those cut lines because we're going to cut 4 more from both divisions next week at Homestead.
Yeah, and you see, of course, both Richard Regan Jr. has won in the Pro Division, Brett Adams in the AM. The Pro and AM's determined by where you last season. National drivers are Pro drivers. Last season's truck drivers are AM drivers. I hope these names change to it because I don't think Pro and AM really identifies the talent here correctly, but you still see the points here. I think the cut lines are important to talk about. Look at that. Mike Toomer Jr., 1 point over McGarvey down there on the right side of your screen. And there's some drivers that are basically, I think, locked as well. Maybe not guaranteed. I mean, Patrick Calgill plus 85. That seems pretty safe. Panzarella seems pretty safe. Maybe Bradley Holly on the left side. But there's a lot of drivers. This race could really, pop some kernels, could shake things up, could I don't know. I was trying a corn reference, and
you tried your best. We'll get it going soon. And also look for Jeff Ward below the cut line right now. That's kind of a shock. He won a race earlier this season. Look for him to try and dig his way back into the round of 8. But this coverage is brought to you by Advanced Sim Racing tonight. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision 5 coupon code. RaceBox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, their button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit RaceBoxSimRacing.com and also get a 5% discount, also using the Precision 5 coupon code. The Butt Kicker. Products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat with The Butt Kicker. Moradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. For more information, visit moradness.com. Mr. Hedge iRacing Photography. Capture your finest, proudest, or simply worst moments from your hobby in up to 8K resolution. A great addition to any sim room. And last but not least, get ready to learn to be fast with Advanced Motorsports. Follow them on their socials to become a better driver. All right, the dying seconds of qualifying are ticking down, And remember who I mentioned below the cut line in the playoffs currently, 10th in the playoff points, 3rd in the season points. Jeff Ward, your winner from Kansas, is currently sitting on pole.
Yeah, it's a great sign for Jeff, right? Jeff's had some amazing runs this season. Came into the season a little late as far as earlier seasons, so maybe hasn't had the stats all year long that the other drivers have, but has shown great potential. Part of Bluegrass Motorsports, him and Mark Caitlin are working together and having a great time. And listen, Jeff's successful off the track too, Joey. Jeff has multiple singles released on iTunes.
I'm going to be tuning in. Maybe I'll have him in my other ear. We might have a couple cautions tonight. Might have some downtime. Might have to put Jeff Ward in my left and right ears, try and pick up some of that. But qualifying has come to an end. The grid is set, and Jeff Ward will start from pole for the first time this season and the second time in his PRL career. Richard Regan Jr., last week's winner, will start second. Jeff Evans, a past winner here at Iowa, will start third. And Marty Calvert, an excellent run from him, the AM driver, starting from fourth. Bradley Holly, another winner this season, puts at P5. And his teammate Nick Hunter, speaking of great runs, that's one of his best qualifying efforts in quite a while. 7th place was Andrew Sharp alongside Kevin McGarvey, rounding out the top 10. Whataback driver Nick Schwartz and Brendan Shatley, P10. Brett Adams, the AM driver, the AM winner from last week, starts P11. And James Morgan rounds out the top dozen, the number 12 in P12, Derek.
Going to move back into row number 7 and find Dustin Bumgarner in that 32 machine next to Abner Acosta, P14. Nathan Deering, P15, in that number 4 machine next to Patrick Cowgill. Pretty far back start compared to Patrick. Number 17, Alex Hillman with Ted Lowendick on his outside. That completes row number 9. Moving back into row number 10, you'll see Mark Kalin, Bubba the Wall Sponge, in 62 with 27, Austin Hunter in P20. Thomas Sink and Zach Panzarella round out your row 11. That's Panzarella's 100th PRL start, by the way. And then Philip Beaver and Mike Knight round out row number 12.
But the hits keep on coming. It's a big field. Mike Toomer Jr. and Doug Evans on row 13. Jacob Dunn and Stacy Hunter behind them. Tom Macy's 29th. And Colton Lane making his 400th PRL oval start. Will start from 30th. Doyle Lawrence and Dalton Geyer, it's Double D on row 16. Kyle Dewey, the fastest man ever at Las Vegas before last week. He's 33rd in his return alongside Mike Richter. Dylan Schmidt and Zachary Burnt start alongside each other as we get into some of the drivers who are not allowed to qualify this week. Those 6 round out the field of 36, Derek. It's not the biggest field we've ever had at Iowa, but it doesn't really matter. It's 36 trucks at a track that's 7/8 of a mile long. What does 5 extra trucks make a difference? It's a big field either way.
It is. You and I were kind of talking before the broadcast. We're thinking when we take the green here that as the leaders hit the line, the back of the field might still be stuck in turn 3. That's just how compressed this track is compared to how big the field is and how it's going to fan out. So lots to keep an eye out here for. Of course, 2 pace laps, so they're going to get an extra lap here around to kind of gather themselves, get adjusted, any last preparations here. But this is going to be a very fast, quick race here at Iowa if it stays green, Joey. Lap times are pretty darn fast.
And I'm going to list out a couple names for you here. These are the winners of every race so far in the PRL trucks at Iowa. Scott Sanderson, Dale Robertson, Thomas Sink, Daniel Knight, J.R. Smith, Bradley Holly, Abner Acosta, Jeff Evans, Dallas Sullivan. You know what those 9 things have in common? Literally nothing. That's the whole point. They are 9 different winners in 9 different races here. Are we about to go for number 10? You don't necessarily think of Iowa Speedway as the place where unpredictability reigns, but there's a lot of drivers up in the top 5 who have not yet won at Iowa. Richard Regan Jr. hasn't won in a truck at Iowa yet. Jeff Ward hasn't won in a truck at Iowa yet. Marty Calvert, I don't believe has won in a truck ever, unless he did last year. I'll have to check the data on that. But we are ready to go racing here as the iRacing pace truck pulls onto pit road and Jeff Ward takes control of the field. The green flag flies and we're racing for round 4 of the season. It's an excellent jump for Jeff Ward. It gets clear of Regan into turn 1. Calvert on the high side trying to ride around Jeff Evans as the momentum builds. They're already at full speed down the backstretch for the first time.
And what a great run here by Jeff Ward. There's someone like Richard Regan who we praise week in, week out for being a restart king. Look at that. Ward's already got a nice little gap right there, and that's already a couple tenths of a second as we complete a lap here. So beautiful, beautiful run by Jeff Ward. Now, what I'm surprised to see, Joey, look at how many lanes are being run here in Iowa already. 1, 2, 3. I think I see 4 different lanes being run in that same corner.
Look at Marty Calvert already trying to rip the top in that 16. Jeff Evans ripping the even higher top in the pink number 51. No progress being made, though, as down in the bottom, that teal number 184, Bradley Holly. He's already on the charge to the inside of his teammate Evans in turn 1. Holly on the bottom. A shorter radius, shorter run. It's not clear of his teammate, though.
No, the challenge here for Bradley Holly running that inside run, though, is the momentum that Jeff Evans will get at a track like this on the high lane and get on the gas center and build that run. It's hard to pass on the bottom here. It's not simple. Yeah, it's a shorter run, but you're in the gas a lot less.
They're side by side directly ahead, as well as Calvert and Regan run 2 abreast, and Calvert has actually cleared Richard Regan Jr. Marty Calvert, you can tell by the purple highlights on the front of that truck, but the caution flies for the first time as Calvert was able to steal second from Regan. Trouble deeper in the field after a few laps of racing. Not entirely sure who was involved. I believe Philip Beaver has unfortunately fallen to the back of the field. He may have had a part in it. Number 61 of Dr. Beaver in trouble.
Yeah, it's not good for Philip Beaver. Wait and see when the RaceSpot replay machine loads up and what may have happened. But with this many trucks and this small a space, it's not going to be that hard to find contact. Let's watch it here on the replay and see what happens here. Look at that 61 on the bottom. Just got lost all by himself. Man, that 3 number just got by him. And that 42 made contact. So, oh my goodness. That's the 30. Wow.
Yeah, Kyle Dewey on the scene took an absolute smack there. It was Mike Toomer Jr. in the 42 who ended up turning Dr. Beaver around in the first place. Well, in the first place, it was Dr. Beaver turning himself around. And now we ride on board with Mike Toomer Jr., who got him pointed in the other direction.
Yeah, I would say Mike's was more incidental, right? That's just wrong place, wrong time. You know, that car is spinning down the track at what feels like an incredibly slow pace. That second contact, though, that may have been a bit more avoidable, Joey. I know when a race car, it's hard to get wound up. I know that's the criticism we all give race car drivers is, how do you not get on the brakes? And I get it's hard, but the caution's out for a reason.
So under the first caution of the day, that was 4 laps of racing, if I'm not mistaken. Dr. Beaver getting himself off pit road after a couple minutes of repairs. That truck doesn't look like it's pointed straight, though, so I feel like he may end up back down pit road, because that is... I think Dr. Beaver might refer that truck to an orthodontist to get some braces put on it, because it's not very straight.
And here's the problem at a place like Iowa. You said it's a pretty short track choice. What this really means for Philip Beaver is not a whole lot of time. He's going to get down pit road here. As he's entering pit road, I mean, there's not just that much time before he has to think about leaving again so he doesn't get lapped by the pace car. It's maybe going to be, I would say, 30 seconds of repairs all he's allowed to do before he has to leave again. In the grand scheme of what may be wrong with that truck, that's not a lot of time.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Kyle, he's putting tires on it.
Maybe that's why he came back down the second time, less for the damage and more. I hope he didn't forget to turn the tires off. That'd be 2 sets of tires wasted.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I think it may have been a mistake from Dr. Beaver in the intensity of bringing it back down pit road. That's a lot of buttons you got to check. There's a lot of check boxes you got to remember to click when you're coming around after like 20 seconds. So may have been an unintentional wasting of those tires for old Dr. B. And unfortunately, Kyle Dewey has gone 2 laps down. He was the yellow and green, or the white and green truck that took a huge hit broadside to the side of the 61. He's taken about 90 seconds of repairs, and he will restart about 2 laps behind the rest of the field. But we are ready to go racing here, stacking them up 2 by 2, and it's a new face to the outside of the front row. Marty Calvert, the AM driver in the number 16, started third, had an excellent run, ripped the top, got around Richard Regan Jr., and he might be in the conversation to lead this race in a couple minutes.
He might. Let me finish up our last story before we move in here. I did go back and check. Philip Beaver, I believe, missed his pit stall the first time. He just went down pit for the first time, Joey. So that exit you saw, there was no stop involved. So this is technically his first stop on pit road. So no tires wasted. But yeah, I agree. New outside leader here, Marty Calvert. I'm curious how this goes, and I'm also curious how hard Richard Regan pushes from the P2 on the inside lane.
And by the way, I should correct myself. Marty Calvert, very much a winner in the PRL Truck Series. So there's a lot of winning prowess up in the top 5, up in the top 10. We'll see who's going to be the next one. Jeff Ward takes control of the field. We're green again as we ride on board with Richard Regan Jr. Richard Regan Jr. actually gets a great jump into turn 1. Calvert kind of caught napping on the top line there. Regan's going to swallow him up on the bottom. Holly might swallow him up on the bottom as well. Calvert going to go from 2nd to 4th in the space of 1 corner.
Yeah, that outside start is so tough, Joe. There's so many not fact checking, but so much details about how you have to do it. You have to be at speed and have to be watching the leader. It's a tough thing to do that often gets overlooked here. So look at this, Calvert side by side with Bradley Holly, and Holly's loving that inside lane. I said earlier that I thought it was harder to pass down, and I think Brad's going to prove me wrong. Watch, it's down to 3 and 4. It gets almost to that yellow line, way deep in there. And no, Calvert's still holding it. See, that's that momentum I talked about. He gets on the gas pedal sooner, gets a better run, gets more speed, and that's how they end up side by side, almost contact.
Side by side and a little bit of a squeeze for good measure as Calvert tries to keep Holly down in the bottom. He's going to keep the outside as down in the background. I think that's Abner Acosta in the yellow truck getting into the wall off of turn 2. But Calvert almost 3 wide between 2 PRL champions, between the 2 championship leaders at that. They do sort things out. They're not going to be 3 wide to turn 1. But things are getting dicey here. Marty Calvert is throwing everything at these guys in the short run.
Yeah, and sort of interesting tale of this team, by the way, for Fillmore. You got Marty Calvert up here battling for P3, P4. And, of course, you saw Philip Beaver, his teammate, already having the problems early in the race. So now it's sort of up to Marty Calvert to carry that banner for Fillmore Racing tonight.
And we can't give Calvert all the AM credit, though. Look at Andrew Sharp, qualified up in the top 10. He's been having a solid but quiet run after a somewhat tough day at Las Vegas that actually ended up being a pretty good day for him points-wise. He's back where he belongs. He's back fighting in the top 10, maybe even in the top 5, as his fellow pink truck Jeff Evans is directly ahead, and Sharp is pushing, getting all sorts of loop off of turn 4. 3 wide to turn 1, though, behind.
Yeah, that truck moved a lot, didn't it? You saw that, just a big wiggle. Not even just the back end, it's the whole truck kind of like danced around. That means he's getting on the pedal way too soon, in my opinion, Joey. It means he's getting on the pedal too early, and that truck is revving up the RPMs really fast and causing some loose moments. But look at this big pack of trucks right here. You see Jacob Dunn's in the middle of that. You see Brett Adams up there. I mean, everybody, the who's who of this league is right in this pack right here. Patrick Calgill, I was at the front of that shot. This is how this racing goes at Iowa. It's just fast and tough.
It looks like the pace lap, literally, at the back of the field. Look up on the high side. I think that's one of Brett Adams' teammates a little bit further back who was ripping the top. It's 2 and 3 wide all down the front stretch. As now Brendan Chatley and Mark Kalin are going at it. Mark Kalin looking to move his way forward through the field after another week of an honestly disappointing qualifying for him. He was hoping to start much, much further forward. And just like at Vegas last week, he has had to rip the top. He has had to rip through the field. And he's done a good job of it so far. He's up to 14th, but he wants more in that number 62.
He does, and I think that's a key point you made about tracks like this for Iowa, is how important qualifying is and how you don't want to have to pass everybody. You're going to be set up in a pretty prime spot to start with, but here they are. Again, racing is so tight. I mean, look at that. Again, we said multi-groove racing here. That's 3 or 4 different lanes I saw being used, Joey. Now, this track varies a lot. You know, the competitors get a chance throughout the week to go use the official iRacing races to practice for this league night. But, man, the official races ran about 20 degrees cooler on track than what this race ran. And it was much different. That official race that I saw earlier this week was very much single groove, top lane. But these guys are making every lane work.
I worry that we might be about to get shaken out of the groove, because the fact that they're still 2x2x2, the fact that they're still sending these haymakers into turn 1, as that was Mark Kalin getting a little bit too ahead of himself. He threw it into turn 1, got a little bit loose, and the momentum has fallen away from him. He's checked up his former teammate Chatley behind him. The 12 of James Morgan's going to get by Chatley. Alex Hillman will get by Chatley. Look at Ted Lowendick at number 13, sending it to the bottom. 3 wide into turn 1 with Chatley and Thomas Sink on the top.
You know, the thing that concerns me about this race, Joey, if we stay green, which seems hard to do when they're 3 wide like that, but if we stay green, the number of laps we're going to turn in this race is going to be monumental. It's going to be a high number in 60 minutes of racing. It's going to be more than probably 130, 135 laps. Tire wear will quickly become a problem in this race with how hard these guys are racing.
And you got to think about the difference in experience with some of these guys. You've got the drivers like Regan and Holly and Acosta and even Jeff Ward for that matter now, who really relish in these long green flag runs, who love it when they get the ability to show off their tire saving ability. And then you've got some drivers who are a little bit less used to running up front. Marty Calvert, Nicholas Schwartz, Nick Hunter. They've got that short run speed, but can they prove they have the tire saving ability and the long run speed today to hang on?
Well, and, you know, part of that also comes into just maybe being unfamiliar with the track. I mean, this is a track that was added into the real-life NASCAR Cup Series schedule this year, but it's been a mainstay for, I think, for the trucks and maybe for Xfinity or Grand Nationals for a few years, but it's not a track we use all the time on iRacing. I know you kind of made that joke. It feels like we always kind of get to this track when there's a gap in real life, but there's a number of drivers in this field who may be racing here for the first time and may not know what to expect of this track. And this track is tricky, man. It's hard. It's not as simple as it looks. It's, you know, you want to think, hey, get outside in the straights, run the bottoms with their corners, but man, this track is tough. I mean, I wonder if the reason why we have all those new different winners in this track is maybe a lack of experience for some of the drivers.
No cautions flown, but there was trouble for Nathan Deering on the front stretch. You may have seen him fall out of the top 15 on your pylon. Just kind of got into the wall off turn 4. He's got it pointed straight again, but unfortunately not quite as high in the field as he once was. See Bradley Holly now starting to pick up the pace, starting to pick up speed here in the battle for P2. And while it's a battle for P2 behind Jeff Ward has actually reached a little bit of traffic for the first time. That's the damaged truck of Kyle Dewey getting out of the way. But soon there will be trucks who are fighting for a spot on the lead lap, and they're not going to be quite so nice when Jeff Ward comes up to lap.
Oh, hold on, caution. I see a caution flag. It's going to be Thomas Sink spun around.
No. 48 truck was having a solid run, driving forward from the back of the field. A former winner at Iowa for that matter. But for the second time today, the caution's flown. We'll wait and see what happened.
Yeah, that's happened. Get word it was going to be the Sink turned around. We'll have to wait and see why. But now the question will be, who takes tires this time? We're now going to be 26 laps in. But let's watch the replay here. There's Thomas Sink on the bottom and at orange. Oh, my goodness. I don't know from that angle if he came up, Joey, or if he got pit maneuvered. Let's watch it from this angle here straight on. That's going to be that teal and purple car on the outside.
Alex Hillman.
And I think he comes up. I mean, unfortunately, we saw this a couple times last week, but yeah, not clear would be the call from the spotter.
After all of that craziness we saw, after all that 3-wide racing, all that double file racing, it was only a matter of time until something went wrong, and there we go, from onboard Alex Hillman in the 11.
That's a great look right there.
Those white lines are painted there, and there was definitely a little bit of motion, but you mentioned it, Derek, pit road is open, and that was a little bit longer of a green flag run. The tires have actually been used, and it looks like essentially everybody in the field is ready to get off of them right now.
Yeah, so everyone's going to come down pit road here. Kyle Dewey will be the lucky dog, by the way. He'll go from 3 laps down to 2 laps down. We'll mention that as we find our pit stalls here. Of course, here's that long drive down pit road for your leaders. That's Jeff Ward right there with Richard Regan behind him. You'll see the right sides go up. Those will get changed off. At the moment, the right sides will come down. The left sides will go up. So nothing unexpected here unless someone comes zooming in out of the camera shot and beats them off a pit road. Well, there's someone. That's Bradley Holly. That's not a surprise. But wow, there you go. Let's look at our pit stop times. Nothing surprising. Almost identical up and down the board, Joey.
That was very, very close between Regan and Ward, though. There were inches in there with Regan a little bit better on the acceleration. Ward was able to hang on, though, by a nose. But that was sketchy. That was tough. And yet again, experience at Iowa in one of these trucks. Pretty much always qualifying at the front of the field. I think Richard's very familiar with the first couple pit boxes at Iowa. Jeff Ward a little bit more tentative coming into his box, but no harm, no foul. He'll still be your race leader. Dr. Beaver hanging out in the 61. He'll actually get one of his laps back, so he'll be on the right track. He'll still be 6 laps down, but you never know. You never give up in a race like this. With 47 minutes to go, you never know how many cautions we'll get. You never know if Dr. Beaver will somehow end up on the lead lap again.
Yeah, right. You never know. At a place like Iowa where it's so close, we could see a number of cautions here. We could see that happen. But also, every lap he runs maybe someone else wrecks out. Maybe he gets more positions and more points as this thing goes on. Remember, there's multiple point formats going on, Joey. There's not only just that playoff graphic we talk about, there's the season points. And, you know, you want to get every season point you can. You don't want to put yourself in a spot to just give up, because, you know, you just want to make sure you're doing the best thing possible. So we'll wait and see here. Now, Joey, the one thing that caught me off guard a little bit, I'm surprised with only 26, 27-ish laps in, that no one opted to try a 2-tire stop. Listen, if it fails right now, you didn't really lose anything. You'll fall back in the field for sure. But if it works, you would know for later that it works. I'm surprised no one, maybe towards the back, took a swing for the fences and wanted to try it out.
It feels like people have been a little bit more risk averse since that first race at Kansas, when we saw people like Jacob Dunn and Tom Macy and I think Austin Hunter as well. They stayed out after an early caution to try and get track position, and it kind of spiced things up. It kind of ended in disaster for Austin Hunter. He had a big wreck with Tyler Graff on the front stretch. So I wonder if that's maybe a little bit of tentativeness after it didn't work out so well at Kansas. Maybe people are a little more scared to pull some of those alternate strategies off.
Yeah, maybe. But I mean, listen, if I was someone towards the bottom of one of those cut lines, if I was McGarvey or, you know, some of the drivers towards the bottom of the Pro or M cut lines, you know, I have to start thinking I need to do something different. I need to be different than these guys. I need to take a swing at something, you know, and see what happens. I don't want to rest all of my moments next week at Homestead. I want to try and see if I can make something happen right now. But you're right. I mean, there was that big, you know, calamity in the first race when, you know, Austin Hunter and Richard Regan got together, and I know they both still feel very differently about that contact. You know, Regan kind of feels like he made the right move. Austin Hunter thinks that Regan was aggressive, and, you know, so we'll wait and see. But you're right. That is probably part of why people are not so happy to be risky here.
And we talked at the head of the show about how it's kind of become a 2-horse race at the top of the championship. Richard Regan Jr. and Bradley Holly on 136 and 135 points. Jeff Ward really wants to prove that he's still the 3rd horse in that race. He beat both of those guys straight up at Kansas in a straight-up fight between those 3. Jeff Ward came out on top, and so far today, he's done exactly the same thing. He's going to take the green again. He's led every single lap so far today, and he's going to leave Regan and Holly to fight over P2 into turn 1. Look at Calvert yet again trying to rip the top in 4th, but Holly with the shorter radius on the bottom in the 184 trying to outrun Richard Regan Jr. They're still sucked side by side for 2nd behind, though.
Yeah, thought if you've seen this before, by the way, a Regan Holly battle. Man, I thought for sure it'd be contact right there, but they both saved it. But I think I've seen that battle a few times over the history of PRL. And there's Bradley Holly, by the way. There's the room you see. And there's Richard Regan as well. So you see both drivers here. And oh, look, Brad's got his friend back.
Yeah, and it's blue now. He was in the purple truck the other week. He had a purple room. Now he's in the teal truck, and he's got a teal room. He's a very color-corrected guy. Oh, and there's a spin a little bit further back. Nick Schwartz in the 171. Not sure if there was contact there, but you saw that lime green truck going around into the grass. He's got it pointed straight again, so no caution. Nicholas Schwartz having one of his best runs ever in the top 10. He's going to be punching himself as he falls out of the top 30.
Yeah, and big part of that checkup, by the way, from that wreck. Patrick Cowgill fell back a lot as well off camera, so it was a big moment. I saw Patrick had to slow up and get moment there. Remember, I said Patrick was probably good on the cut line, but you don't want to risk it. So Patrick checks up appropriately. But here's the battle back up front again. Still Regan, still Holly in that order. So it's Ward, Regan, Holly, 1, 2, and 3. And right now it looks like they're closing on Jeff Ward, Joey.
And Brad got a little bit wiggly there off of turn 4. Think about last week at Vegas. We had that 1-lap restart to finish the race. Brad couldn't get to the outside of Regan, but this is what happened a couple of laps ago. Schwartz goes around into the grass, and then that wasn't it. Look at Patrick Cowgill coming down the road, as you said. I think that's one of the red and black trucks, and then Mark Kalin as well ends up on the scene. He was actually broadside across the track. The caution didn't come out. It was James Morgan in the 12 who was involved with Cowgill as well. This is sort of the second caution that ensued right behind, or the second incident with no caution.
Man, yeah, that's Cowgill right there, and that's a big hit to that 12. That's gonna be a pit. Oh no, that's not. That's just the wall there, but that's a big hit for Cowgill in that Tabata Rasa sports car you saw on the inside of him. So that's why Calgill fell back. Calgill was at one point up 8 spots, by the way, Joey, from where he qualified. Calgill is now minus 10. My goodness, that hurts. That hurts just sitting here looking at it.
Poor old Morgan tried to get on the brakes. He locked it down. He did a good job, but the grass just a little bit too slippery. Ends up kissing the inside wall, and poor old Mark Kalin was involved in that as well. All 4 of those trucks are now rolling, but they are all the way at the back of the lead lap. They're going to be hoping for another caution to hopefully catch back up to the field. But catching back up to the front, Richard Regan Jr., he's done a great job in this short run of keeping touch with Jeff Ward, of keeping close to that rear bumper. Ward's still in control, but one single bobble, one single mistake, one single bit of trouble trying to lap Kyle Dewey, and you've got 2 hungry drivers right there ready to pounce on a Ward mistake.
And big credits to Kyle Dewey, by the way, having a tough race, multiple laps down, doing the right thing, trying to stay out of the way, and really so far doing a good job of that. I mean, I know it's frustrating as a driver when you're damaged and hurt and kind of lipping the truck around, hoping for points. So big shout out to Kyle Dewey for doing the right thing there. But you're watching the battle now, multiple battles. The battle for first is up top, and you see a big conglomerate of cars down in that bottom screen. So yeah, man, I love this track for racing. I don't like racing it so much, but I love watching the racing.
And look, I think conglomerate, maybe one of the best words you've ever pulled out, Derek. It's insanity behind Ted Lowendick. He's keeping them behind him 2 by 2 by 2 by 2. Colton Lane in the 60, Kevin McGarvey in the 77. Ted is not used to driving this truck. He told us last week after Vegas, the Grand National car, the Xfinity machinery made sense as sort of a car you needed to drive, and you needed to use the brakes a little bit. You do need to use the brakes at this track. Maybe that's why he's starting to understand the truck a little bit more, and he's up in P8, holding back some very strong drivers 2 by 2 behind him.
Yeah, depending on where you are in the track and who you're around, the amount of brake you use can vary a little bit, but you at least need to use the brakes to help the truck get rotated through the corner and to be patient on the throttle. A lot of the trucks we're seeing bobble through or out of the corners tonight, Joey, is because they're being very, very impatient with that throttle. Hold on, caution's out again. Let's see why. As you see, our front 3 on the screen are just fine. We'll wait and see what the caution is.
It's turned into a little bit of a short run festival here at Iowa tonight. Austin Hunter, we believe, has been involved. He's fallen to the back of the field. And I don't want to spoil anything for you, Derek, but Austin Hunter has gotten into a horrible habit of flipping this season. He nearly flipped at Kansas, got turned by Richard Regan Jr. on the front stretch and almost flipped over Tyler Graff. He did flip multiple times at Talladega, and unfortunately the streak continues after getting clipped by the 32 of Dustin Bumgarner.
My goodness, what a wreck by Austin Hunter. Man, Austin's having a really rough season of this. I mean, sometimes that's what happens to a driver. You just have a bad season and it hurts. But again, I noticed that contact there, Joey, and it's hard to say. I mean, whose fault is a little harder to tell, but it's just side-by-side racing where someone's moving up. And again, I tend to think Austin Hunter's not clear and kind of gets spooked by the truck below him. Watch this here on the replay when we load it back up here. You're going to see the Tabata Rasa purple machine coming under him, and I think he's just going to get spooked and move up. Well, I'd love to see this again if we can. Yeah, he just comes up on the 32. These guys have spotters, right?
Sometimes a season just goes absolutely terribly, no matter what. And we've had many of these before. I remember many seasons ago, many years ago at this point, we just had to call a season the Mark Kalin season, because it seemed like every series, whether it was Cup, whether it was trucks, he ended up wrecking somehow. I remember Tom Macy had a very, very bad luck season a couple seasons ago as well. I worry this may be the Austin Hunter season now. If that's 3 out of 4 races he's flipped in, I hope he's able to turn it around at Homestead next week, but that's a worrying omen.
That's it. And listen, Homestead's a fast track, so if you would have a track where you could make some contact and flip somewhere, there's plenty of good spots in that transitional banking at Homestead to make it happen. So we'll wait and see here. Well, as we reset, Joey, let's take a look at our top runners here. It's Jeff Ward, Richard Regan Jr., Bradley Holly, Andrew Sharp, your top 4, with Jeff Evans top 5. In some ways, no real surprise. Those names up there all night. Couple of shout-outs. I was going to say for Ted Lowendick a second ago before that yellow came out, Joey. Plus 10, by the way, for Ted. But below him, Colton Lane, plus 21 on the grid tonight.
That is big stuff, and remember that big number I mentioned while we were reading through the grid? Colton Lane, this is his 400th PRL Oval start. He started a couple more, he's had a couple of road runs in the MX-5s and GT3s, I believe, but on the ovals, whether it's Cup, whether it's Xfinity machinery, whether it's a truck, whether it's sprint cars or anything, Colton Lane has taken some sort of machine around an oval 400 times in the PRL, with today included. That is big stuff.
Yeah, and if we can real quick, we can grab a shot of Zach Panzarella under yellow. He's actually running a special paint scheme to commemorate his 100th start. So you'll see he's got a different paint scheme on to celebrate that. So congrats to Zach. Only a quarter of what Colton
he's just got to do it 4 more times.
4 more times, yeah, right? But you'll see a different paint scheme here for Zach. So Zach, of course, season champion a couple of seasons ago, multiple wins, a very deserving driver, still part of the playoffs for the AM division, for the truck drivers, if you want to call it that. So still very much a battle going on.
If you're wondering who's got the most starts ever in terms of the PRL Oval Series, Colton Lane with 400. He's pretty high up there, but he's not the highest. I do believe it's Charles Sumner with the highest number. No, it actually isn't. False alarm. Charles Sumner has the most starts overall in the PRL. He's got 504 starts across Oval and Road Series. Colton Lane is actually the startingest. Is that a word? He has the most starts of anybody on an oval in the PRL as he hits 400 today. He is the first person ever to make 400 oval starts in the PRL. So that's even more incredible.
That is incredible, isn't it? Here's Nathan Deering, by the way, on the camera. By the way, we did confirm before, Joey, that is a computer tucked back in there. I thought at first he was like sitting in the corner by himself, but no, you can kind of see the glare of the monitor in front of him.
He's got his records over there. He's not alone.
No, he's not alone. But by the way, big shout out to Charles Sumner, very much involved in PRL in past seasons, has taken a bit of time away. I know he was involved in sort of the path of Milton last week, and Charles, hope you're out there, hoping he's okay. Hope you got your power back and everything, but thanks for all you've done for PRL.
He's got to be okay. Those Tropicana oranges aren't going to juice themselves. Better hope Charles Sumner's all good. And we hope you're watching tonight, Charles. We're going to put on a show here for 32 more minutes. The iRacing pace truck goes back home. It retreats into its shell, and Jeff Ward bursts forward, takes control of the field for yet another green flag. Regan slots behind him. Holly slots behind him. Look at Jeff Evans on the scene, though, down in the bottom, ripping that yellow line to the inside of Andrew Sharp. The momentum's not there, though, as Sharp swallows him up. Andrew Sharp is up into the top 5, up into the top 4 now.
Man, that is the biggest jump we've seen Jeff Ward get all night so far, Bo. That was impressive to get out in front of Regan, then Holly. But here's Jeff Evans now trying to race hard on the bottom here and trying to see who he can make passes on. But that bottom is just so tough. It seems logically in your brain, it's right. It's hard for me as a driver to get my head out of there and say, nope, don't touch the bottom. But Jeff Evans is trying to make it work here and see if he can get around Marty Calvert.
And Jeff does have a win at Iowa. I still remember that race he won here a couple of seasons ago. It was a great win. Ended up out front very early in the race after an alternate strategy call, if I remember correctly, and held off Richard Regan Jr. for a very long period of time. See if he can somehow get his way to the front to try and recreate that this time. It's not quite gone his way after this restart, though. Calvert got by him. Lowendick's gotten by him now. And look at his teammate Colton Lane in the 60. He's on the scene as well. Kevin McGarvey's ripping the top. He's got momentum, too. Evans is another one of those guys who does tend to have long run speed. The short run speed doesn't seem to be there, as there goes the 60 to his inside, and the 60 wiggles a little bit to let Jeff breathe for a moment.
Yeah, big shout out for Jeff, by the way, involved in the path of the first hurricane. Finally got his internet back this week, so he's back on home internet, so no more hot spotting for Jeff Evans as he is running around this track. And again, look at Colton Lane, wants to make that bottom work. I'm curious if someone finally does make it work. We know what the new track dynamics iRacing released about a year and a half ago now, Joey, that you can rubber in the track as you race along. It's just going to take more than 1 or 2 cars down there to make it work. You would have to get everyone down there to kind of make it work. And hold on, caution's out, Cowgill is in the inside wall.
I've lost count. I don't know if this is 4 or 5 tonight, but at the halfway point of the race, we are now under yellow yet again, and that was just as Richard Regan Jr. was given the business to Jeff Ward. They were about to go for an all-out tussle for P1, but unfortunately, racing action has been interrupted once again by, as Derek said, the 31 of Patrick Cowgill getting into a little bit of bother. See what happened in turn 2 here, coming off the corner. There goes Cowgill, and that was Doug Evans in the 41 as well ahead, who got into trouble before him. Wonder if that was a little bit of target fixation as he followed one of his teammates into a half spin.
I was wondering the same thing. I was wondering if it's target fixation or if maybe Patrick just gets a little too throttle happy. Let's watch it again here. Here he's on the bottom of the track coming up. That truck lost it all on its own. I think he got a little too throttle happy, maybe wanted to get back into it a little too soon. Man, I'll tell you, Joey, Patrick, ever since this new truck model has come out in iRacing, I think now 2 seasons ago, Patrick is really having a hard time with it. And I have a lot of respect for Patrick. He won a lot of races, performs well. I mean, is second in points, in the year-long playoffs. But this new truck model and Patrick Cowgill just really are not the best of friends, it feels like.
And there's on board with Patrick. You could see Doug Evans losing it a little bit further ahead, but I don't think it was target fixation because Doug was in a little bit of a cloud of trucks. He could kind of half be seen, half not. But pit road is very, very active yet again. I don't believe it was the entire field that came down. Everybody from 7th on back came down pit road. But there's some vulnerable trucks now up front. From Jeff Ward back to Abner Acosta, all those guys stayed out. Panzarella, Schmidt, and Geyer came out under a couple cautions to go, so they've cycled forward into the top 10. But Bradley Holly came down pit road from 3rd. He's going to restart in 11th now after coming down for his second set of tires.
Yeah, this is the kind of racing I love. Now we're going to see who has saved tires, who doesn't need to save tires, because his different strategies are going to play out. And listen, if you are someone who pitted, if you are maybe, a Nathan Deering, a Mike Toomer Jr., a Nicholas Schwartz on back, a Mark Kalin, you need this thing to stay green more than ever before, because that's how those tires will pay off. I mean, it'll be I'm just trying to do some math in my head, Joey, about a 30 lap difference on tires. Now, some of them were under yellow for certain, but new tires are new tires.
And the limit is 3. There's 3 sets waiting on pit road after the start of the race. So for these guys in the top 10, they've got 2 sets left. For Bradley Holly on back, they've only got 1 set left for the next 30 minutes. So if there are any shenanigans, if anything goes wrong in about 15 minutes, things are going to even out. So you gotta be conservative. I'm glad there's a limit, I think, because it does open the door for strategies like this. When you do get a caution at precisely halfway, we do have the opportunity for a little bit of mixing, a little bit of blending, a little bit of unpredictability.
Yeah, and listen, this is one of those tracks, that it's small enough and short enough that, I might want to save a set of tires for, let's say, if we get a caution at, I don't know, I mean, we don't really count laps here, we count time, but I'd say within 10 minutes to go. If a caution fell right there, I'd go put a last set on. I think I can make some moves with 10 minutes to go. Heck, since we're just doing time and not laps, I could probably make some moves with 5 laps to go, or 5 minutes to go, pardon me, if I had those new tires. So there's a lot of thought that needs to go into this about how you do it. But when passing is so difficult on the bottom, I do understand why Jeff Ward, Holly, Regan, Sharp, and others want to go out there. But actually, I said Holly. I was wrong. Bradley Holly did come down for tires, Joey. So the ones not taking tires is Ward, Regan, Sharp, Calvert, Evans, Hillman, and Abner Acosta. Everyone else has taken tires within the last 10 laps.
When are we getting you in a truck, Derek?
I thought about it, actually, but then...
When are we sticking you out there?
We can do it whenever you want to. I could try to be like the old Kyle Petty in-car reporter,
Because I did it. Terry Radford did it. Taylor Burris did it, sort of in reverse.
No, you did Grand National.
That's true.
Let's not.
This is easier though. It's less of a challenge.
Oh, 100%. I'm not going to argue that. I think the trucks are about 1,000% easier than the Grand Nationals. I think that's part of why some drivers are loving this new format, and maybe some drivers aren't, is because there's that comment you made from Ted about the trucks are a little less drivable and more about this momentum, I think.
You heard it here first. Derek Watson, 2025 is next year. Season 1, he'll be in the field. Look out, Jeff Ward. Look out, Richard Regan Jr. Look out for the green flag in the meantime, as Ward and Regan, they don't even bother pretending to be side by side into turn 1. Regan immediately slots in behind him. And Andrew Sharp is up to 3rd, the AM driver, and his fellow AM driver, Marty Calvert, fighting for the win in AM, but fighting for 3rd overall into turn 3.
Look at Sharp there. You saw on the bottom of your screen go by. Quickly got to the inside and is trying to make something happen here. He's now up to P4, and you see him that pulling. Look at that, I guess, a multicolored machine on the bottom. It's got about 5 different colors on it, Joey.
And there's even more colors coming up behind the magenta truck of Jeff Evans, the teal truck of Alex Hillman in the 11, and the bright yellow truck of Abner Acosta are all slowly but surely looking forward. Look as they come out of turn 4, though. Another bright teal truck behind Abner Acosta. Bradley Holly, the first truck on fresh tires. He's got to start slicing his way through the field if he wants to make his way to the front of the field. And so far, he has made up a whopping 1 position since this restart. He's made up 1 spot, getting past Dalton Geyer.
Well, there's that old, analogy that doesn't perfectly fit, but it says, time heals all wounds. The time, if this can stay green, will heal the wound of Bradley Holly falling back in the field, because he will get ahead of these trucks if he's able to keep this race green. But he needs to move to the outside. He's stuck right now. He's right, there with Abner Acosta. Now he's almost to the outside. Got one more truck there in the 11 on the outside. If Bradley Holly gets to the outside lane of Iowa with those new tires, people are going to be hurting.
And Abner Acosta sort of falling backwards into a top 10 here as he now falls into P10 as Ted Lowendick gets around him. He's not had a very good season. It's been a very un-Abner Acosta-like season, unfortunately. He currently sits 30th in points. This is a guy who has won the playoff championship in the trucks before. This is a guy who's won multiple season championships in the trucks before, and in Cup, and in Grand National. This is an excellent oval driver, but unfortunately, this season has just not gone Abner's way so far, and he's riding on his playoff points to hope to stay alive.
And sometimes that happens, whether it be just maybe the schedule doesn't fit, your preferences, whether it's just moving back the truck after multiple years of Grand National and Cup Series driving, whether it's just new competitors. There's so many factors that go into why you're having an off season. I mean, listen, with all due respect to Abner, living down in the path of the hurricane, I'm sure there's been a lot of personal stress and personal things to deal with, and I'm sure all that gets in your head as a driver, and sometimes you just don't feel it. Sometimes you're just not there anymore. You see Jeff Evans almost felt the wall. That car wobbled a little bit, got cattywampus there out of the corner.
And Panzarella was ripping the high top. Evans was ripping the high line, and Panzarella was running the IndyCar line, trying to find clean air right up against the wall. It's not worked out for either of them, as Bradley Holly was able to swallow up the 247, and now running that lower line on those fresher tires, Holly's going to look to get by his teammate Evans for P5, and then set his sights forward on that top 4. Trouble in the back of the field, though, and Holly's long-run speed on those fresh tires, once again, it's going to be scuppered by more trouble at the back of the field. Ward hangs on to the lead, but yet again, the caution flag flies.
Oh, I looked up from the broadcast window and saw Colton Lane sideways and got basically T-boned at the end of a wreck, Joy. So he's going to have a lot of trouble. So his 400 start likely not to end on a positive note. We'll wait for the replay to queue up here. And I think he's going to be involved in a wreck all the way through a corner. We'll wait and see here as it loads up. But Jeff Ward continues to lead here. But this is good news for Bradley Holly, so you can get a better start here on this restart. Let's load up the replay machine and see how it looks. There's Colton Lane in that old Valvoline style paint scheme. Made contact with the green truck, and he went spinning himself and got clobbered right about there. Oof. That's Zachary Burnt, I believe, in that green and yellow John Deere inspired machine.
Yeah, and that was Dylan Schmidt in the 92, got turned around in the first place. Not a good day to be a green truck. Both making contact with Colton Lane. Both getting into trouble. Here's the initial contact. Lane in the 60, Schmidt in the 92. Schmidt gets a little bit of a wobble on, gets hit by Lane, gets flung across the side of the track, ends up collecting Colton, and then poor old Zachary Burnt, nowhere to go, gets totally swallowed up. And there was a black truck down at the bottom of the track. Didn't see who that was. It might have been Dustin Bumgarner, who had an absolutely insane wreck avoidance there, making it through that. I think that was Mike Knight, actually, in the 68. Had about 3 trucks broadside across the track, flying towards him. He found the opening, he made it through, and Mike Knight lives to fight another day. But now, as the caution flies yet again, I think we might see a couple drivers electing to bring it down pit road, and I think we did, as Jeff Ward is no longer visible at the front of the field. Your race leader, Marty Calvert, Zach Panzarella, Andrew Sharp, and a host of others have elected to bring it down pit road for fresh tires. We had 2 different tire strategies a caution ago. Now we've got 3 different tire strategies at the same time. Richard Regan Jr., Jeff Evans, and Abner Acosta on 41-lap-old tires. They're the only ones still out there. You've got about 20 drivers who came down pit road under the last caution. Their tires are about 14 laps old. And then from 22nd onwards, you've got Jeff Ward and Calvert and a host of others on 0-lap-old tires. They just pitted.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how this plays out here, and this will tell us how important track position is with Richard Regan and Jeff Evans being the one to test it out here, because their thought process right now, Joey, is that, you need laps to make tires work. And so, with these drivers out here on older tires, if we keep cautioning every 5 minutes or so, there's no time for those new tires to get warmed up and really make a difference. But where Regan and Evans will be in trouble is if that pattern breaks, they'll probably fall pretty far back. Now, we'll wait and see. Regan, his first time controlling the start tonight, does he get as massive a jump as Ward was?
And I almost wonder, did Regan and Evans know how many trucks behind them pitted under the last caution? Or did Jeff Ward, rather, know how many trucks behind him pitted under the last caution? Because if you're trading the race lead for 22nd, I wonder if he knew he was going to fall this far back down the field, because 22nd, that's the danger zone. That's where all the cautions have been happening today. And that's a lot of trucks you have to pass.
Well, Regan knows, by the way. I'm sure of that and say that because I know Richard Regan has teammate Reese Bogue up in the spotter stand, the virtual spotter stand, spotting for him tonight in every race this season. So I know that he knows what's going on. And to an extent, I'm sure that Jeff Ward knows. This is just that game of chance you play about when is the right time to call the bet and see when it pays off, because obviously he didn't think his tires were that great anymore. But I agree with you. That's a big step, from first to 22nd. That's wow.
You wanted excitement. We've certainly got it, and we're going to rack them up 2 by 2 this time around. Richard Regan Jr., your winner from last week, will take control of the field. He's got a very dangerous situation behind him, though, because Bradley Holly, his rival for the championship, is on 27-lap fresher tires. Ted Lowendick to his outside is also on those fresh tires. Abner Costa in P5 on 43-lap old tires as well. So there is a whole blend of tire lives. Jacob Dunn has moved his way into the top 10. Brett Adams is up into the top 10. Nicholas Schwartz, remember he got turned around, fell to the back of the field under green. He's back up into the top 10. The whole field has been turned on its head, and it might just get turned on its head again as the iRacing pace truck once again nestles into its shell on pit road. And for the first time today, it's a new leader. Richard Regan Jr. leads us to the restart. Look at Ted Lowendick in the blue truck, though, trying to make it 3 wide into turn 1. He'll get the door shut by his teammate Jeff Evans. Holly in that teal truck, though, the first truck on fresh tires, already moving up on the top and already trying to build momentum to get by that 56.
Man, I wonder if Jeff Evans spun the tires a little bit there, Joey, because that start was not great. I know it's harder starting outside, but he fell back quick and got swallowed up by Lowendick and others. So we'll have to wait and see. Here's Jeff Ward, by the way. There's the onboard. Look how these new tires feel. Look how good that feels as a driver. Look at the moves he's making bottom of the corner. Probably 3 wide right there.
The freshest tires of anybody. To the inside of Tom Macy into turn 1. He's got to make these moves quickly. There's not that much time left in this race. 16 laps. That adds up to maybe about 40 laps to make up 20 spots as we end lap 1 of this restart. Jeff Ward is up 3 spots. He's up to 19th, but he's got a lot of ground to make up. He's got a lot more progress to make. Holly's got more progress to make. Regan has been able to hold this gap at about 0.3 of a second, but that tire starts to warm up. The wear starts to show itself a little bit more. And the 184 of Holly might start to show itself a little bit more as well. Further back, though, a little bit of contact as Jacob Dunn and Mark Kalin come together. Kalin keeps it pointed straight. The trucks behind him don't. Mike Knight gets turned around in front of the field. Mike Toomer corrects it, but Mike Knight not so lucky, and the caution immediately flies again.
There's just calamity everywhere through that corner, Joey. They're still parked over there trying to get turned around, trying to get it gathered back together. Wow, that's just a lot of trucks involved in this one incident. In fact, Richard Regan just comments, he went by and said, hey, cars are still wrecked in one incident. So it's got to be a lot. Let's wait and see when that happens here. You said you saw part of it live, but that wreck just never ended, Joey.
Now, unfortunately, as exciting as it is to have 3 different tire strategies, those 3 different tire strategies can come together at a very high rate of speed and in a very, very disastrous way. And that's exactly what happened here. Multiple different trucks, multiple different tire ages, and multiple different speeds. As Mark Kalin checks up on the front stretch, there goes Knight turned across the field and welcome everybody else onto the scene of the crash. Doug Evans broadside into the side of Knight as he flips. Calvert's involved. And then Panzarella, I think, was involved as well. There's a parking lot behind all these guys. And I don't know how that Mike Knight truck is still rolling, but here's how everything developed behind this.
Yeah, lots of, oh man, that's our second flipped.
Nick Hunter, Dr. Beaver, Patrick Cowgill.
Wow, that's a lot. I mean, this is going to be a lot here. Now, right now, we still got about 10 minutes of racing left. So obviously we're going to go green again here, but this is where that tire thing pays off a little bit, maybe for Richard Regan, as these cautions keep happening. It's going to level off. My goodness, for Marty Calvert right there, not going to level off, but it's going to level off the strategy. But man, with the pace that Bradley Holly was closing, as we're watching this again on Marty Calvert, this going around, I have to think if I were a betting man, Bradley Holly has the advantage here.
He definitely does, and I do feel bad for Marty Calvert because I mentioned Austin Hunter has flipped a lot this season. That's not something you normally think about when you're racing. You're normally thinking in terms of 2 different planes. You're thinking X and Y. You're thinking if there's people crashing, I'm going to go to the top, I'm going to go to the bottom, I'm going to avoid it. Unfortunately, this season, we've introduced the wild card of the Z-axis. There's been trucks falling from the sky. It's much harder to avoid trucks when they're falling from the sky. You can't go to the top or the bottom.
Yeah, it is very difficult to go from top to bottom and just... Oh, man, this is one of those racetracks I was thinking earlier as we saw a couple wrecks, Joey. For some reason, all the wrecks typically end up at the top of this track, but I mean, that wreck went everywhere. That wreck was top, was bottom, was middle, was everywhere. So as a driver in the back of the field, it felt like there was nowhere to go. You were just kind of stuck, hoping and praying you made it through all the smoke.
Well, we will hopefully go racing here in just one more lap. Should be a short cleanup, even with about 15 trucks wrecked. Most everybody has gotten back out there. Trucks with heavy damage still waiting on pit road. Mike Knight, of course. I think he'll be down there for a while. Mike Richter getting some extra repairs, but even with a lot of the trouble we've had tonight, we started with 36 trucks. We've still got 28 trucks in the lead lap, so these guys have done a good job of, even when there have been incidents, gotten them repaired, they've gotten back out on track, and they've kept fighting. We've still got a pretty big field running out here. But we will go racing this next time around. It'll be Regan and Holly side by side up front, a dynamic duo, a championship battling duo this season. But one's on much fresher tires than the other, and both of them want to get their second win of the season. We've seen a lot of trouble in the middle of the field, but there's about to be a lot of anger and a lot of passion at the head of the field between these 2 guys.
And I'm thinking to myself in my head, if you're Evans, if you're Lowendick, if you're Abner, Acosta, even in P5, Brett Adams even, you're thinking to yourself, you know, Regan and Brad, they're not bad drivers. They're not going to wreck each other, but they're aggressive drivers. You're kind of wondering if something could happen, maybe, you know, puts them both in a bad spot and you get around them, because those guys love to rub. They love to race. They love to lean on one another. And not in an aggressive way, not in a bad, like, you know, I'm going to just take someone out of the raceway, but sometimes contact is contact, so we'll have to wait and see about that. Now, to follow up on your point about how many trucks are still involved, Joey, I was thinking to myself, good news for those trucks. Iowa's not really an aero-dependent track, so that we could see some beat-up race cars finish really well here, because this is more of a short track, and short tracks don't require clean race cars to win.
Yeah, and I believe there was one extra lap added to the caution there. There were a couple damaged trucks trying to rejoin the back of the field, but we will go racing this time. And also, I just noticed a strategy that I didn't notice on Ted Lowendick's truck all season. That is his newborn baby son on the rear bumper of that truck. So obviously a little bit of good luck, but also an excellent strategy, because you're going to make anybody else behind you run into the back of your baby son to get you out of the way. That's the best strategy you've ever seen. Nobody's going to punch the baby. It's galaxy brain stuff from Ted Lowendick as we do come back to the restart. 10 minutes to go. Ted and Theo start from 4th, but Richard Regan Jr., our own special baby boy, starts from the lead.
Man, I hope that baby wasn't back there for the super speedway race, Joey. I didn't notice, but that would be really bad if he had him back there for Talladega.
Maybe a good luck charm. Ted was having a good day until I believe he was involved in a big one. But now Ted ripping the high top through 3 and 4. It's working out for him as he gets to the outside of Jeff Evans. Evans on those old tires. Ted Lowendick could be in the conversation for this win as well. He's on the same age tires as Bradley Holly. And Ted's up into the top 3, running faster laps than Richard Regan Jr.
Yeah, Ted's doing a great job and is sort of right in the catbird seat of waiting to see what happens. Here's Brad ripping the bottom. Now, I said earlier the bottom would have a hard time, but when the bottom has 30 lap newer tires than the top, I think that advantage is a little bit more obvious.
Abner Acosta sneaking his way into the top 5 as well, but the heat is on up front. Holly is as close as he's been. But unfortunately, as close as he's been is still about a truck and a half length back. But through 3 and 4, he sends it to the bottom, rips the yellow line. He's within about a bumper or so, but he's got to close that gap down that little bit more and actually get to the inside of the outside of him. He needs to get side by side with Regan to try and get him out of the groove, because right now, Regan's in total control still.
Well, Regan's going to start ripping the bottom like that. Brad is going to start ripping the top and really taking advantage. But they're swapping lanes to the corners here. Look at that. Look how much space Brad made up in that corner. Doing a great job here. Ted's back there. Jeff Evans doing a great job, by the way, in P4 with those old tires holding off Abner Acosta.
That was the first instance to side-by-side we've seen. It's been a little while. Brad's got to look in his rearview mirror, though, because his teammate Ted Lowendick is actually on the attack more than Holly's on the attack for first. Look at Ted to the inside as Brad sends it up to the 3rd line. He builds up that momentum, but he's a little bit too far back, and he actually taps the wall a little bit off of 4. Look in the background, by the way, as well, getting around the outside of Nicholas Schwartz. Jeff Ward on the freshest tires of anybody is up into the top 10 and fighting forward. He's still's got a shot at this.
He does. Lots of drivers have a shot if they stay green here with about 7.5 minutes of racing left here. We'll wait and see how this plays out. You see there's Jacob Dunn in the middle of that battle. And lots of trucks here, all just really in a... I said conglomerate earlier. I don't have a better word for it. A gaggle of trucks, if you will, trying to race really hard here. So right now, this battle's everywhere. The battle for the lead. I am stunned that Bradley Holly has not gotten to the front here.
Can never count Richard Regan Jr. out. You can't count Jeff Ward out either, though, as he does now clear Nick Schwartz. Or didn't quite clear him, but leads him to the line. He should be able to clear him into turn 1 with that fresher rubber underneath that truck. Adams is next on his list. See how high he can get. I don't know if the win is necessarily going to be in the conversation with about 15 laps to go, but a top 5 recovery would be great stuff from Ward. Look at Holly now in the 184, yet again getting to the inside of Regan through 3 and 4. Doesn't get the run down the front stretch, though. The momentum does not carry, and he's got to slot back in line again. Look at Lowendick running the high line, and look at Kyle Dewey. That damaged truck out on the track still, getting in the way of Regan a little bit. Not intentionally, did a great job of getting out of the way, but Regan wanted to run that high line, and he couldn't. There was a truck there. Yeah, and it's Bradley Holly when it comes to that lap car. Brad made up a lot of space right there. Great job here by Brad to see that coming and really make a big run, because you said Regan was not able to get to the outside and make that run he wanted to. So here it is again. I'm just stunned that Brad's trying to rip the bottom. That's not the line, and I have a lot of respect for Brad, and he does that, and I do this, but I don't know. But what I am wondering in my head, I know Brad won't wreck him. I know better than that, Joey. But will Brad bump him for the win? And in your double box, you see the progress of Jeff Ward as well. He's now gotten to the inside of Abner Acosta. Abner's fighting back on the outside, but Ward is on much fresher tires than both him and Jeff Evans. Ward will be up into P4 in a matter of moments here once he clears these two guys. And there are still quite a few laps left to go. 5.5 minutes doesn't sound like a lot, but this is Iowa Speedway. Laps here are very short. They're only about 23, 24 seconds. If Ward can get by Evans here in 1 or 2 more laps time, he might have a shot to catch these guys, and this might become a 4-truck battle for the win.
But the good news for Ward is he's running about a half second faster than Jeff Evans lap by lap. He's going to pass Jeff Evans, but time-wise, according to Pylon, Ward is running almost identical laps to the people in front there, which is Regan and Bradley Holly. So I think that might be, unfortunately, his cap. But if it is, 22nd to 3rd is an incredible run.
Well, Ward has now cleared Evans. You can't see him from the chopper. That's because he is about a second back, but we'll wait for the first clean air lap time for Ward to see if he does have the speed to catch these guys. And if they start fighting, which is very possible, that's going to be even slower. That's going to be great news for Ward. Holly got a nose to the outside of Regan for the first time through 1 and 2. He is sniffing the back bumper of that number 56 for the first time. Still no run off of turn 4, but Holly is as close and as aggressive as he's been all day. Through 1 and 2 this time. He's running the same line as Regan. He is shadowing him through 1 and 2. He's not building up a run, though. He's just keeping close. Now he sends it into 3 down to the bottom. He's got the fresher tires. This is the move for the win. This is the move for the lead. Doesn't have the momentum off the corner, though, and Regan hangs on for now.
Wow, and Brad had to get off the throttle a little bit there, or he was going to end up right up into the door of Richard Regan Jr. So great job by Brad to back out of there. But now that lets Ted Lowendick into the picture even more. Ted now right there running P3. This is by far his best run of the season. And he's having an incredible run down there. He's now trying to run the bottom. And now he's side by side with Bradley Holly.
And now that Ward has been in clean air for the first time, that last lap was 2/10 faster than anybody else in the field. This time around, as Regan crosses the line, it's a 10th faster for Ward. Ward is running faster than all 3 of these trucks ahead of him. Does he have enough time to get by all 3 of them, though? Does Holly have enough time to make this gap back up and get back to the back of the 56? He says, I'm sending it up to the top of 3 and 4 to try and build up a run again. But he's still about 3/10 behind the race leader. But here comes traffic, 2 by 2. This is legitimate lap traffic, Derek. These are not damaged trucks. They've got to get out of the way, but they're not going to be quite so easy as some of those trucks that were 6 or 7 laps down just getting out of the way.
There's one up top getting away. And here's the difficulty for those drivers, by the way. Though both lap trucks thought they were out of the way, Joey, they just couldn't, get organized about which way was the correct out of the way. So that's why they were too wide right there. But look at this battle. Look at it on your screen there. The top 4, Regan, Holly, Lowendick, and Ward, that close together with a couple minutes to go.
And that was Jeff Ward we were just on board with. That's Jeff Ward sending it into turn 3. Jeff is there. He is in the hunt for this win now. And Ted Lowendick might have just opened the door for him. A tap of the wall off of turn 4 gives Ward the momentum, gives Ward the run. And with the shorter run through 1 and 2, the slide job from the 89, Jeff Ward's tucked one of them off of his list. He's only got 2 more if he wants his 2nd win of the season.
Now Lowendick's going to try for the crossover, wants to get down to the bottom, but I believe Ward will just kind of run away with us on the top lane here. Watch him just going to get that big run off the corner and leave Ted behind. That's how much difference you get in getting on the throttle. Now the biggest challenge Jeff Ward will have all night, getting back around these 2 drivers. Joey, you've raced with them, catching Bradley Holly and passing Bradley Holly, that's 2 different job applications.
And passing Richard Regan Jr. after that, that's going to be even tougher. But as we cross the line, 1:40 left to go. Gonna do some quick math in your head. That's 6 or 7 laps. Ward needs to be a consistent 10th faster than these guys every single time. And what happened on that last lap? Ward was 1/10 and a half faster than both Holly and Regan. Look ahead, Dylan Schmidt in the 92 and Nick Hunter as well are going to be the next 2 trucks to get lapped. Regan does get around Schmidt fairly straightforwardly. Holly bobbles, though, to the outside of Schmidt. Loses all of his momentum off of 4. Here comes Ward in the 89 again, challenging for 2nd.
Wow, that truck on the bottom there, that lap truck may be the story here, though, Joey. Let's see, because Ward's going to get held up. Ward got held up massively by that truck. There are 3 wide, but Ward lost a lot of momentum. Oh, my goodness, I thought they were going to make contact.
Ward sends it in there, as that was actually one of Bradley Holly's teammates, Nick Hunter, on the scene. Crossing the line now with 50 seconds to go. That is 3 laps to go for these guys. And Ward's biggest run was definitely scuppered by that lap truck. Now off of 2, Ward's got a good run, gets a little bit of a bobble off of 2, and yet again doesn't quite have the nose to the inside. Holly in the 184 chops off Ward's nose. Jeff is going to try and keep the run going, though, off of 2, as crossing the line this time, it's going to be 2 laps to go for Richard Regan Jr., and 2 laps to go in what looks like a fight for 2nd.
Yeah, right now Richard Regan must be smiling from ear to ear like the Grinch who stole Christmas, because he knows that this battle means he is walking away with this victory. But here it is. Can Jeff Ward make it happen? We're likely coming to the white flag.
Ripping the high top in the 89. The door gets closed, though, as the white flag is in the hands of Barney the Flagman. One more lap around for Richard Regan Jr. and one more lap around in the fight for second. Every point matters in the championship. It might not be for the win between these two guys. It is going to be for a championship battle. Top 3 in the race, top 3 in the championship, and that might have just resolved it. But Richard Regan Jr. in a race of 3 different tire strategies, the guy with the oldest tires wins them all. Richard Regan Jr. wins 2 in a row and wins for the first time in a truck at Iowa.
Mr. Short Track comes through again. He does it time and time again, and he's got another victory to Richard Regan Jr. That's 2 weeks in a row, Joey.
2 weeks in a row for Regan, and that keeps our streak going. In 10 PRL truck races at Iowa, nobody has won 2. Richard Regan Jr. is the 10th winner in a truck in the PRL at Iowa.
Technically, Andrew Sharp is the 11th winner in a truck at Iowa.
And there you go. Andrew Sharp comes home with the AM win as well. They kind of all finished in a cluster. Andrew Sharp wins an AM. Brett Adams finishes second in AM. And Nicholas Schwartz, one of the stories of the day, after spinning into the grass under green, got no caution to bunch himself back up into the field, had to fight his way to stay on the lead lap, eventually got his caution to be able to fight back, and he gets a 3rd place for his efforts. That's a big thing. Big day for Nick Schwartz, but no bigger day for anybody than Richard Regan Jr. Really proving that the decision to stay out, it was the right one. Holly was on fresher tires behind him. Ward was on even fresher tires behind him, and it was the number 56 that hung on either way.
You have to think that maybe, 5 more laps? Less than that? And Regan may have been in trouble.
Finishing results are now official. Regan, Holly, Ward. That's your top 3 in the race, and that's going to be your top 3 in the championship as well. Ted Lowendick, one of his best races of the season, one of his best races ever on an oval, frankly, finishes P4, and Abner Acosta, a quiet day that gets his season back on track in the top 5. Jeff Evans rounds out the top 6 in Pro. Andrew Sharp finished 7th overall, but does get another win in AM ahead of Brett Adams and Nicholas Schwartz, who round out the podium in the AM division. Jacob Dunn, top 10 for him for Tabula Rasa Esports. That's a great result for him. He rounds out the top 10 after 106 laps of racing. P11 went to Nathan Deering, who had an up and down day, ended up in the wall very early on, but drove his way back up to 11th. Mark Kalin rounds out the top dozen. James Morgan, with a tap to the inside wall earlier in the day, gets home unlucky 13th ahead of Hillman and Lane. Toomer, Chatley, Cowgill, Panzarella, and McGarvey round out the top 20, but the hits keep on coming. Doyle Lawrence had a quiet day to P21. Geyer, Stacy Hunter, Amacy, Evans, and Marty Calvert round out the lead lap finishers. Poor old Dylan Schmidt and Mike Richter both went 1 lap down each at the end of it all. Hunter went 2 laps down, and Zachary Burnt got a little bit of damage on that number 28. He went 3 laps down. And then we start to get into the used truck lot of trucks with heavy damage. Kyle Dewey was 5 laps down. Dr. Beaver was 32nd, 8 laps down. And Thomas Sink, Mike Knight, Dustin Bumgarner, and the roller, Austin Hunter, all ending up at the bottom percentile of the field. But we've got some very happy drivers waiting again, and for the 2nd week in a row, the first driver we talked to is Richard Regan Jr. There were multiple tire strategies there. You were on the oldest tires, Brad was on slightly fresher tires, and Jeff Ward was on even fresher tires. How did you end up winning out?
Yeah, when they all pit there, and I wasn't expecting us to all pit there, but when the whole field came down, I kind of knew, we were gonna have to flip the strategy somehow, and we only did 8 green flag laps there, and I knew if I came down pit road that it was gonna be way too hard to get back up for track position. So I was trying to fake out Jeff, and I don't know if he was planning on pitting regardless, but I wasn't gonna pit at all that whole time. I knew track position was king, and I kind of figured out the line a little bit, figured out how to drive it a little bit better before that offset strategy started, and felt like I had the pace, and the top lane is super fast around here, so if you can protect the top, it doesn't really matter unless the guy has 50 lap newer tires than you. So I just try to stay out front, use the air to block Brad, and try to set sail.
So it seems like you three guys, you finished in the top 3 today. You've won all the races this season. It seems like you guys are going to be the ones who are fighting for the championship. Do you feel like you're the favorite now with 2 wins over Brad and Jeff?
I don't know, man. Jeff is super fast in the truck. He definitely kicked it up a notch coming over to the truck. So, I'm not going to take any race for granted, and I'm just going to try to go out there every week and do my job as a driver and try to get a win every week. And me and Reese have good strategies together. So, shout out to him for being on the box again tonight and spotting for me. Definitely takes a lot of pressure off of me, so I can just focus on driving, and I think that's what's been setting me apart a little bit more than the others right now.
Well, Richard, congrats on win number 2 on the season, and we'll see you next week at Homestead.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to give a shout out to Susan G. Komen, Racing for the Cure, State Analyzer, Mission 22, Neonas and Paints, Multiple Sclerosis Society, Regenboog Motorsports, RaceSpotTV, everybody at PRL, and you guys at RaceSpot.
Richard Regan Jr. coming home with the win again. And by the way, a little bit of numerology. That was his 78th win in the PRL. And by the end of the race, his tires were 78 laps old. It's almost like it all comes together. But coming home in second yet again and talking to Derek Watson yet again, Bradley Holly's back with us.
Well, Brad, we saw that incredible run you had towards the end. You had better tires than Richard. What do you think made it so hard to get by him? I think you're on mute, but I see the lips moving, but I don't hear the audio with it. And it's still a negative.
The magic of technology.
I was on push to talk, my bad.
There we go.
No, I think it's just a combination of track and just having to push hard on that restart to get through when I restarted 11th. I was a little frustrated that I didn't get to take advantage of it as much, and, I just have to settle for a P2.
So I have to ask you, towards the end of the run, we saw you really dig in the bottom to try to get around Richard. It felt like all night that the top was really the faster lane. Was it just he was blocking it too hard, or were you just kind of persistent on making the bottom work, or what happened there?
No, for the majority on fresher tires, the bottom was better for a short bit. And then, it's two races in a row where, it's top line dominant, so there's really not much you can do except for either try to drive through a wall and get up to the outside or move somebody, and those are 2 things I refuse to do to get by somebody. I want to race clean, and if I want to pass somebody, I'm going to do it a different way.
Well, listen. Well, next week it's Homestead. It's the last race in this current round of playoffs. You're pretty well solid on points, but what's your outlook for Homestead?
That's probably going to be a lot like Kansas, I think. But we'll have to see how it turns out, how the setup feels, and adjust and try to be the best to take home a victory.
All right, well, listen, we know you got your friend behind you giving all the advice as the race goes on. Did he have any words of wisdom tonight?
Pass Richard, but, that wasn't helping at the time.
Well, listen, great run tonight. I'm always fun to see you race, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you very much.
That's Bradley Holly, the winningest driver in PRL history.
Indeed he is, and one more driver coming home in third in the pro category, Jeff Ward. You were giving us the entertainment at the end there. You were ripping through the field on those fresh tires, but what more did you need to get by those 2 more guys?
Yeah, we didn't have a choice, really. We really had to go out there and get up through the field because we're on the cutoff line with one more race to go. We want to try to be in a good position. So I don't know, man. We didn't need that battle with Brad there. I needed to try to clear him if I wanted to try to make a run towards Richard. But yeah, we just got in a battle with Brad. Good, clean battle, but we didn't need that if we was trying to win the race. So we'll settle for P3. It's a good points night, and I kind of wish I would have stayed out with Richard. Obviously, truck was on rails there for the first half, but I just didn't think the tires would hold on. The tires just last forever here. I should have known that, but cost me the race. That's a little disappointing. But yeah, man, we'll take a top 3 and we'll get out of here and try to dig over at Homestead.
See you in Homestead in 1 week's time. You certainly kept it entertaining tonight, so see you in a couple days.
Yep, thanks, guys.
Jeff Ward, third place tonight, third place in the championship as well. That will be Homestead next week. But I do believe we've got a couple more drivers to talk to, Derek. Let's see if we can pick up our AM winner, Andrew Sharp, on the phone. Andrew Sharp, you're starting to pick up these AM wins. I don't even know what to compare it to. You're just you're the dominator of the AM championship so far this season, and you've done it again.
Yeah, I wanna get a top 3 amongst the pros, but it feels good to wrap up the AM wins. Tonight was a lot of fun. Felt like the pace was a lot better than last week, so it was a good race.
So how do you approach the rest of the season here? You've got a pretty big championship lead now, I'd say, in the AM division, but still 4 more rounds to go. Very different tracks, very different races, a lot of chaos. How are you feeling with a couple weeks to go?
Yeah, there's a good amount of them that I don't own yet, so that's a little scary. So definitely need to get some practice in, especially next week. I haven't raced there at all. So lots more practice and just trying to get the setup right as far as brake bias and all that fun stuff.
All right, we'll let you get practicing straight away. Congrats on the AM win. We'll see you next week.
Appreciate it. Have a good one.
Andrew Sharp, AM victor, finishing 7th overall, and one more driver to talk to. Nick Schwartz was the comeback kid. He's with Derek Watson.
Nick, what a great run tonight. I mean, it looked like you had fun out there in what was a very, very busy racetrack. How did it feel out there?
Yeah, it was super loose, really easy to make mistakes. I mean, I looped myself early, I think when I was running P6, so I'm just glad I was able to recover from that. I thought for a while there that me and Brett Adams were going to be battling out for the AM win. I didn't think that Andrew had enough time to get through the field on his new tires, but he did. That guy's really fast, so all credit to him.
So next week is Homestead Miami Speedway, a very classic NASCAR racetrack. Do you like the track? Are you good at the track? What's your outlook for it?
I wouldn't say I'm good at the track. I don't think I've run it since, the last time I ran in the Truck Series, which was many years ago. But I'm just happy to be, at least competitive in the AM division. It's gone a lot better than I've thought so far. So, hopefully it's just another good race, and hopefully we have a few less cautions.
All right, Nick, well, we'll see you out there next week. Good job tonight. In 1 week's time, Homestead. All right, well, Joey, that is the guy. Listen, he started 9th. He finished 9th. That's a pretty consistent night.
How about that? It's a little bit of a W of a night, up and down, and ends it on an up. But as we mentioned, Homestead Miami Speedway. It's a 1.5 mile track. Not necessarily similar to any other 1.5 mile track, though. We're going to see a lot more rip in the top. We're going to see multiple grooves. And as exciting as this season has been, it's going to be even more exciting because Homestead is going to be a cutoff race for the round of 12. We'll set the round of 8. And we'll do all sorts of other fun stuff too. And there's more PRL racing tomorrow night as well. The GTP GT3 series will be here on RaceSpotTV, so we hope you'll join us for any and all of those nights. But until then, I've been Joey Tevin. Derek Watson's been Derek Watson. Our producer has been Josh Lee. Until we see you next time, so long.